Welcome to Athar's Garage. In this video, I'll be working on the Team Associated B7 Bag 10. So let's get started. Alright, so we're going to need two M3x8 low profile screws. Nice to see that they went with these versus the button head cap screw and the M3 washer that they were using on the B6 series. Since I'm installing a fan, I also need two M3x16 button head cap screws. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the fan mount off and then install the fan, because I wanted to do something that I did on the B74.2. Okay, so I know which direction my fan is blowing. I have the Protect fan, and I know that it sucks in from this side and blows out the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and install this. So this mount is made for a 30mm fan. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually add a piece of double-sided tape on the bottom of the fan, so that when it attaches to the chassis, the fan's not resting on the chassis, or if it has any hard landings, that it doesn't slap the chassis. And I did that for the B74.2 just because that fan was causing all sorts of loud vibrations throughout the chassis. So now I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the fan mount. And I'm just going to cut off any excess tape that might be seen on the bottom, so that it doesn't accumulate carpet. Alright, so I noticed that there was a gap between the side rail and the mount, so I routed my wire through that gap. So it kind of gives a nice clean look. Next, we can install our motor. We're going to use the two M3x8 low profile screws, and I'm going to apply some Loctite on this because I don't want it to back out. I've seen people not apply Loctite on the motor screws and the motor gets loose after a few landings. So motor mount is interesting. It has this design here, so we're going to put the two screws in through here and line up the holes in the motor. And I believe they want you to have it clocked kind of facing forward with the tabs, so just take note of that. Alright, so I have the screws lightly installed, and now I'm going to go ahead and install my pinion. This has the same gear ratio as the B64, so I'm going to go with the same pinion I was using last, which is a 24. So I just line up the flat on your shaft and then install your pinion. Make sure that you have as much engagement with the spur gear as possible. And I already have some blue Loctite on that set screw. That's something that I would recommend. So now we can go ahead and set our gear mesh. Okay, I feel like the 24 tooth might be the smallest pinion you can fit with the 72 spur. So just take note of that. I don't think you can fit a 23 in there because I'm pretty close to the gearbox itself with the motor. So next we can install our electronics. I'm going with my Hobbywing XR10 stock spec ESC. I like it. Lightweight, does the job, good price point. It's telling us to mount it on the left side of the vehicle, which I will, just like so. And then we're going to mount our receiver on the other side. I already cleaned it with alcohol before the video. That's something that I would recommend to have good adhesion. I'm just going to wipe the chassis down real quick. I'll probably install a shorter sensor cable, but this is what I had in my box for right now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some packaging tape, clear packaging tape, and I'm going to tape down the sensor cable and my fan cable in this channel right here. It's going to go underneath the battery, so it should give a nice clean look. I'll probably put a shorter sensor cable in once I get to the hobby shop, but this will do for now. So yeah, so that'll go underneath the battery. That way you don't see the wires on top. So now we can install the battery straps. It's telling us to install the standard battery holder. We're going to need 2 of the thumb screws, 2 M3x10 or 4 M3x10 button head cap screws, and it doesn't say what size the other screws are, but they're the long screws here. So let's go ahead and get the standard battery holders off the parts tree. This is the standard one right here. These are the offset ones. It says half offset. So we have 2 different thumb screws. There's a standard height one and a low profile height one. I'm using a LCG pack of 46 or 4800. So I'm going to use the low profile thumb screws. And it says if you're using the low profile thumb screws, to utilize the M3x12 button head cap screws with the thumb screw. So we're not going to use the M3x18s that were for the standard height. We're going to use the M3x12. So we're going to install the M3x12 button head cap screw through the thumb screw, install our O-ring onto there. Then on the bottom side of the battery holder, we're going to install the M3 lock nut in this hole right here. It already has a hex, so make sure you install your nut in the correct direction. Hold it with your finger, and then we can now install the M3x12 button head cap screw in there, and just kind of snug it up, and then should be able to move it back and forth, and it should stay tight. So the kit setup is number 3. So we're going to line up this center line here, which is number 3, with the line on the side rail. So once that is lined up, we can install the 4 M3x10 button head cap screws. Nice to see that they finally have a proper battery holder. nice and tight on my battery. So awesome. So now I can go ahead and solder my motor wires and my racing connectors. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So this is a soldering mat. Highly recommend one if you do a lot of soldering. I know a lot of the Mini Z guys use this a lot. We use this at work, so I decided to get one for the house. I'll go ahead and install my bullet connectors. All right, lastly, I'm going to go ahead and install my transponder. Alright, so I've been following along. I already installed the wing mount that does the angle. So I installed it with the thin side facing front. That's the kit setup. You can mount that on top of the wing, and that'll give you 3 degrees. With this thin side facing forward, it's 6-degree angle. And then with the thick side facing forward, that's going to be 0 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and do the kit setup. So there's a protective layer on the wing, just in case you wanted to paint it. Since I'm not going to paint it, I'm just going to go ahead and take that protective layer off. I reamed some holes for my screws. For now, I cut to the top line. If I want more rotation, I'll cut to the bottom line. But there we go. That's the top line there. There's one more line you can cut it down to. And then new wing mount. I'm going to go ahead and install that. All right. The wing is on. So that's pretty much the end of the build. Just got to paint my body and mount tires and do my initial setup. But that's it for the build. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you did. Stay tuned for the next video, which will be the build review. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.